The answer is not one. For most of human history, one spouse was not the norm, not even close. And the reasons why will completely change how you think about modern marriage. Let us start with a number that will surprise you. 85% of all human societies ever documented practiced polygamy, not as a fringe practice, as the dominant social structure. One husband, multiple wives. This was the standard arrangement across most of human history. Not because ancient men were greedy, because survival math demanded it. To understand why, you have to understand how dangerous ancient life was for men specifically. Hunting, warfare, territorial conflict. Male death rates were catastrophically high. In some ancient populations, men died at twice the rate of women before age 40. This created a permanent imbalance. More women than men in almost every ancient community. Polygamy was not a luxury. It was a population-level solution to a survival crisis. A woman without a partner in the ancient world was not just lonely. She was in danger. No hunter providing food. No protector at the camp perimeter. No social status within the band. Being the third wife of a capable hunter was a vastly better survival option than being alone. This is not a modern judgment. This is ancient survival economics. Now, let's talk about who actually practiced polygamy. Because not everyone could. Polygamy was almost exclusively the privilege of high-status men. A man with no resources, no hunting skill, no status in the group, had no wife at all, let alone multiple. The reality of ancient polygamy created a sharp two-tier system. At the top, powerful men with large families, abundant resources, and political influence. At the bottom, large numbers of young men with nothing. No partner, no family, no stake. Historically, these excluded men were the primary source of social instability and violence. A young man with no wife, no children, and no future had very little to lose. Across cultures, researchers have found that polygamous societies show higher rates of violent crime. Not because polygamy caused violence directly, because it created a large pool of excluded men. Now, let us talk about the other side.
Polyandry.
One woman, multiple husbands. Rarer, but documented in specific environments where it made perfect survival sense. The Himalayas, Tibet, parts of India, the Arctic, all places with extreme resource scarcity, where dividing land between brothers would mean everyone starved. The solution: brothers shared one wife. The land stayed undivided. The family unit survived. The land survived. And frankly, so did the brothers. This was not a romantic arrangement. It was economic strategy dressed as family structure. Now, let us talk about monogamy. How did it become the global standard? The answer involves religion, law, empire, and a very practical political calculation. The Roman Empire was the first major state to institutionalize monogamy at a legal level, not for romantic reasons, for political ones. Polygamy concentrated power in the hands of elite men who built massive family networks. A senator with 5 wives and 40 children had a political army within his own bloodline. Monogamy weakened these power concentrations by limiting how many legitimate heirs any man could produce. The Roman state did not ban polygamy to protect women. It banned it to protect itself. Christianity inherited this legal framework and gave it a moral architecture. One man, one woman, for life, blessed by God. This framing was extraordinarily powerful. It made a political decision feel like a divine one. And it spread across the world with Christian missionary and colonial influence. Societies that had practiced polygamy for thousands of years were told their family structures were wrong. Not because the evidence showed monogamy produced better outcomes. Because the missionaries said so. Now here is what the evidence actually shows about monogamy versus polygamy outcomes. Monogamous societies show lower rates of violent crime, lower rates of male-on-male competition, higher investment per child, more stable inheritance systems, but also higher rates of divorce, higher rates of infidelity. It turns out humans are not naturally monogamous, and the data makes this very clear. Across every culture, every era, Infidelity rates run between 20 and 40%. Not because people are bad. Because human biology was not optimized for strict monogamy. Humans are what biologists call socially monogamous but not sexually exclusive. Like many bird species. Like gibbons. Like several primate species. The pair bond is real. The exclusive sexuality is harder to maintain than the culture admits. Now, let's talk about love. Because ancient marriage had very little to do with it. Marriage in the ancient world was an economic contract. A resource-sharing agreement. The woman brought family connections, labor, and reproductive capacity. The man brought resources, protection, and social status. Love was a bonus, not a prerequisite. Romantic love as a basis for marriage is an extraordinarily recent idea. It emerged gradually in Europe during the Renaissance, became dominant only in the 20th century. For most of human history, you married who your parents negotiated for you, based on land, livestock, political alliances, trade relationships. The idea that you should feel a deep personal connection before marrying would have seemed, to most ancient humans, frankly bizarre. Now, let us talk about what ancient marriage actually looked like day to day. In polygamous households, wives often lived in separate sections of the compound. They managed their own children, their own food stores, and their own social relationships. The senior wife held significant authority over junior wives. This was not chaos. It was a structured system with clear rules and roles. Now, here's the part that almost nobody talks about. In many polygamous societies, women preferred it. Not all women, not always, but frequently and documented. A high-status co-wife in a wealthy household had access to resources, childcare help, and social community that a sole wife in a poor household simply did not. The choice was not polygamy versus romantic monogamy. It was polygamy versus poverty. And for many women, the calculation was straightforward.
Now, let us come back to today.
And what ancient marriage patterns tell us about modern ones? Monogamy won. Legally. Morally.
Culturally.
But the biology that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years of polygamy did not disappear. It is still present. In the jealousy response. In infidelity rates. In mate competition behavior. Modern humans are running ancient mating software on a modern social operating system. The mismatch is not a personal failure. It is an evolutionary lag. Ancient humans did not have fewer spouses because they were less enlightened. They had more spouses because the world they lived in made more spouses the rational choice. And the world we live in made one spouse the rational choice for ours. The number of spouses is not a moral question. It never was. It was always a survival question, dressed up in religion, encoded into law. And the ancient humans making those choices were doing exactly what we do today. The best they could with what they had.